Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the brand new OnePlus 7T and we're going to talk also about the OnePlus 7T Pro. Well, sorry, not the 7T Pro, this is the 7 Pro. But for the most part, the 7T Pro will be an upgraded version of what we saw with the OnePlus 7 Pro earlier this year. At the end of 2019, OnePlus has given us two options, a QHD curved display with 90Hz or a flat display at 1080p with 90Hz. Let's go ahead and compare the two and see which one's the right one for you. This is TK, let's check them out. Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you're always notified whenever we put out new videos on the channel. So what I have in front of us is both the OnePlus 7 Pro and the OnePlus 7T. You'll notice there's a very big similarity in the actual design. We both have basically a very different gradients of blue. We have the kind of frosted back color here on the blue variant, and of course we have right here a nice little blue shimmer that's going on. Both devices now support triple camera setups, which is a little bit different than what we saw earlier with the OnePlus 7, which was for the most part an upgraded version of a OnePlus 6T. We have a telephoto, a wide-angle lens, and a standard 48 megapixel standard focal length with a dual-tone LED flash. We have the logo here for OnePlus. What you notice that the flash is sitting here within the camera array, although we have it out. And of course we have the OnePlus name sitting at the bottom. Both devices still support the alert slider with the power button sitting on the right side, as well as a volume rocker, and of course what we have here essentially is a couple of antenna bands. On the top, it's a little bit different here. We have a pop-up camera mechanism here, the 16 megapixel camera that's sitting at the top here with one of the microphones, and on the OnePlus 7T we only have the microphone as we are still supporting a notch on this device. So for the most part we're carrying the same aesthetics as the OnePlus 7 and the 6T, except of course as you can see here as the 7 we have that big grille for the stereo speakers that are supported on both of these devices. So on the bottom we basically see the bottom firing speaker that's married to the stereo speaker at the other side. We have an additional microphone sitting here for the OnePlus 7 Pro. We have a dual SIM card supporting device here if you purchase the unlocked one directly. I'll give you guys a link in the description below to be able to save some money off of that. If you are going to be picking it up from either T-Mobile or any carrier version of this device, you're pretty much going to be stuck with a single SIM model. A USB-C for both data charge as well as the ability of actually using headphones, as we don't have a headphone jack on either one of these devices. So we have a 3800 milliamp battery and a 4000 milliamp battery here on the 7 Pro, both supporting the Warp 30 charging speeds, which means pretty much that they both charge very, very fast. The only difference is now we have the brand new Warp Charge 30T with the extra T on it that enables us to actually go a little bit faster, about 23% faster than what we had with the 7 Pro, and hopefully we'll see that actually come to the 7T Pro whenever that device gets announced. So keep in mind, bigger battery as far as the OnePlus 7 Pro, but as far as charging speeds, it's supposed to be a little bit faster here on the 7T. Talking about displays, the first thing you'll notice is that the OnePlus 7T is no longer the smaller of the two. When you put them next to each other, you'll notice that the 7T and the 7 Pro, for the most part, carry the same length as far as the hold. So we can no longer say that the 7T is smaller as far as a phone. But what we do notice is that since we have that notch, we no longer have that full display here. And what I mean by that is that when we turn on the camera and switch over to the front-facing camera, you'll notice that the camera is actually sitting as a pop-up mechanism, which enables us to basically have a display without a notch on the 7 Pro, where on the 7T we still have that notch, as well as the fact that we have a QHD 90Hz display here, and now we have a 1080p 90Hz display on the 7T. The benefit, of course, obviously is that when you're looking at both of these devices is one has a curved display. So let's put this down. Let's go ahead and turn it off. You'll notice that the 7T Pro, well, the 7 Pro has a curved edge. So it's a 90 Hertz display with a curved edge. I do have a glass protector installed on it. And of course, the 7T is still carrying the flat display. So it's really more of an aesthetics thing. If you prefer a flatter display, still want the 90 Hertz, I think the 7T will work a little bit better for you. If you're looking for a higher refresh rate, let's go ahead and unlock and use the front-facing camera. And of course, you want to be able to have basically the QHD display with that curved edges. You like that aesthetic. I think definitely that the 7 Pro will definitely work for you. And hopefully the 7T Pro will carry that, for the most part, the same aesthetics. Again, a T upgrade generally is basically a spec bump. And let's start talking about those benefits that we saw on the 7T. Now, what we saw as far as an upgrade from the earlier version, which was the OnePlus 7, we now have the 855 Plus as far as the processor, as well as UFS 3.0, which for the most part we had on the OnePlus 7. So really, the latest version of the Snapdragon 855, which is the slightly overclocked version of the 855 that we have here on the 7 Pro, will be on the 7T, as well as hopefully on the 7T Pro. The Warp Charge 30T, which is present on this device, will also be present on the brand new 7T Pro, as that's for the most part hardware dependent, so the battery has been optimized to charge up to 23% faster. But again, as far as what you're looking here is you're looking at a small spec bump upgrade. The model that I have here on the left with the 7 Pro is running 8 gigs of RAM. So let's go ahead and bring up the specifications. And as you can see, both are running Android 7.0. Now again, the 855 Plus, a slightly overclocked device. I have 8 gigs of RAM with 128 gigs of internal ROM, which will be the model available in the US, on T-Mobile, and from OnePlus as an unlocked model. On the left, I have a 12 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of internal storage. This is the upgraded model, but you do have the option of getting one with less storage. And of course, this has the 14, 16, and 8, which we have here, the 14, 16, and 12. As I mentioned to you guys, the displays are very, very similar. Both Fluid AMOLED displays at 6.55 and 6.67, almost non-distinguishable at this point. But again, I am running Android 10.0 full version on the OnePlus 7T and in beta on the OnePlus 7 Pro. You are able to basically sign up for it, and I am running the beta too, and it's basically extremely ready for daily driver. But what I wanted to share with you guys is overall experience of using both of these devices. If you're considering getting a OnePlus 7 or a OnePlus 7 line of device this year, and you're looking to get the latest and greatest, this will be running around somewhere around $599, the starting price point. And this starts at $669. So really we're talking about a $70 difference at the starting point of both of these devices. Now, all of the models that are available, regardless of more RAM, more storage, will have the same hardware as far as the display size, the processor, as well as the fact the camera setup will pretty much be the same. All will support a UFS 3.0 storage, which will be really fast for accessing and basically opening and closing applications. But I wanted to share with you guys a few things here as far as images to show you the technology and the benefit of having a higher refresh rate, well, a higher quality display. The first thing here is a quick picture that I took here in my backyard. We can definitely see the flowers, the details. Again, the camera optics that we're getting here are very similar between the two cameras, at least the main cameras. And of course here, there's a little grasshopper that I was able to zoom in. Keeping in mind that the camera here on the 7 Pro will allow us to go up to 3, with one of them being digital, so it's 2 times optical, 1 digital. Here just goes pretty much 2 opticals. But the camera quality again should be very, very similar. And here is just a quick exposure with some lit and unlit areas, and you can see images look exactly the same. Very, very nice. And what I really like about them is that they're both able to provide us the same experience. You can see here with the color representation, the really deep colors. When it comes to the camera, as far as some of the new updates that we saw with the 7T that we can now definitely enjoy on the 7 Pro with the updated beta that was pushed out not that long ago. So you need to install Android 10 on this to get the benefit. And that's the ability of using all 3 lenses. And of course, one of the really nice things they also pushed out in an update is we now actually have the ability of using the wide angle lens in 4K on the OnePlus 7 Pro, well, 7T, and hopefully we'll see that on the 7T Pro. And even as an update here, because when I do upgrade to go 4K here, I'm pretty stuck to just using the telephoto, which is a digital zoom telephoto. So definitely some nice updates. I'll go ahead and play for you guys a quick sample of video using the actual steady option here, that little option that turns on the super steady or super stable on, and that enables us to basically have literally gimbal experience footage stabilized from your device at 1080p, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And it uses the main sensor, so that's really the main benefit. No other lenses are available at this, but you do definitely enjoy really stable, really glorious, and just looks absolutely fantastic on both the 7T and the 7 Pro. So some of these benefits are coming with Android 10.0. So you can experience definitely much faster processing, much better optimized performance. And one of the things I always like to do is the ability of checking basically how the benefit of having more RAM will always impact performance on our device. So let's go ahead and open up. And what I have in front of us here is pretty much a sample of a 4K 60 frames per second shot on the OnePlus 7T. And for the most part, what I'm going to do essentially is run the stabilization option that we have here. So as you notice right here, I'm inside of Google Photos. So the main thing that we're going to try to see here essentially is having more RAM, a better solution than having a faster processor. So what we have here is the 855 Plus with 8 gigs of RAM, and here I have the 855 with 12 gigs of RAM on the 7 Pro. And what we're going to do is basically run the stabilization option here with the timer. So 1, 2, 3. And we'll go ahead and see which one performs better. Again, more RAM, and basically the last version of the processor, or new version of the processor with less RAM. So what we saw here essentially that they were pretty much neck and neck all the way down to the end, and for the most part we just literally got about an 8-second, literally almost an 8-second difference. Not that big of a big bump as far as processor speed with stabilizing using Google Photos, but again, this should be just kind of a quick example. So if you have the option of getting the 7T or the 7 Pro with 12 gigs of RAM, you're pretty much getting a very similar experience as far as usability. Charging speed will be a little bit different, but again, both are going to be supporting the Warp 30, so both are going to be charging a lot faster than the 2018 line of devices from OnePlus. So as we said, the experience of using the device is pretty much very similar. You are going to be limited as far as options. The 7T will not have a 12 gigabyte model. The 7T Pro may, and the T Pro is again going to be released hopefully in the near future. There are also some rumors that it's going to be a McLaren edition. The McLaren edition, which is very similar to the one I just showed you guys right now, and that's the McLaren edition 7T, well 6T from last year. This one did come out with 10 gigabytes of RAM. So this is the McLaren edition 7T. This had 10 gigs of RAM. And of course it had basically the fastest charging technology that we had in 2018, which pretty much is the Warp 30 that we now have in 2019, although just recently upgraded to the Warp 30T. So when it comes down to it, both of these devices are gonna offer us the best that OnePlus has to offer. Now I'm gonna start referring to the OnePlus 7 Pro as the OnePlus 7T Pro, mostly because what we can say basically is that the 7 Pro is the baseline, and what we saw essentially is that the 855 Plus and the Warp Charge 30T will be the main updates that we see from the 7 Pro to the 7T Pro. On top of the fact that they may also upgrade the camera optics for that wide-angle lens. So keep in mind, aesthetically, the 7T Pro will definitely have a performance boost, but it's always going to come down to the options that you get with the 7 Pro as well as the 7T Pro, compared to the 7 and the 7 Pro, or the 7T. So let's talk as far as options. The 7T for the most part is coming out with 8 gigs of RAM with 128 gigs of internal storage. We don't seem to see another option for higher capacity as far as RAM or storage. So that's also one of the limitations. It starts off at $599, but you're getting a really decent, very fast, latest and greatest 90 Hz display, flat display, of course with a bigger battery, the longer aspect ratio, great experience, and of course faster charging with the Warp Charge 30T. 3800 milliamp battery charged in about an hour, and I did the speed test on that, and of course showed you guys the temperatures that we're running on there. When we're talking about the 7T Pro, this is something that we need to start looking at the fact that we pretty much know that the 7T Pro will have the updated basically processor, so the 855 Plus, the faster charging at the Warp Charge 30T, possibly a bigger battery. We can't really pinpoint on that, but I can tell you that even at 4,000 it'll charge faster, about 23% faster than what you're currently getting with the 7T, well the 7 Pro. So just those are going to be some of the main differences, but the reality is it's really about options. The 7T is the best 7 device that we can get without having to go to the Pro line, meaning 1080p display, 90 Hz display, but it's a flat display. And of course, the ergonomics of that now is for the most part the same as the 7 Pro. It's a taller device that gives us basically great cinematic experience, great stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos, a lot of really great things there. Now, the 7 Pro offers you that little more edge, the speed, the performance. There are some rumors out there that there's going to be a McLaren edition, so more than likely that will be the Pro edition, as we saw last year with the 7T, well, sorry, with the 6T McLaren edition, as I was showing you guys before. So essentially what we're looking at the options to have higher RAMs and as well as storage. So probably a 10 to 12 gigabyte storage RAM, and as well as maybe up to 256 gigs of internal storage. And of course the ability of going to that QHD display with the fact that it has that curved edges. So it's aesthetically looking a little bit different. A full view display, no notch as we have on the 7T. We have that pop-up camera, the same cameras, but the placement of the cameras gives us a different experience. No notch if you don't want to see it there. Starting price point between the two, $669 for the 7 Pro. Hopefully they'll keep the same price for the 7T Pro, I don't know. But again, if you're looking at the 7 Pro, you're looking at about basically a $70 difference here. I would recommend you considering what you'd like to do with your device. If you want the latest and greatest with the best processors and the best specifications, I recommend you looking at the 7 Pro, well the 7T Pro. And of course, if you're looking for basically the best, smaller form factor, but still giving you some of the great performance, I think the 7T will do great. Lastly, I do want to mention that in the US, T-Mobile will no longer carry the 7 Pro in their stock. They will only start carrying the 7T in their store. So if you want to pick up the 7 Pro, the first generation of the 7 Pro, you definitely want to check out the link in the description below and go to OnePlus's website and save some dollars there when you're ordering it, because I think that's where, for the most part, we'll be able to get it. The 7 Pro and the 7T will be for the US market. The 7T Pro, I'm probably going to be expecting it to be in the European and Asian market, as we had it earlier in the year with the OnePlus 7, where it was for those markets and not here. So just keep in mind where you are, but at the end of the day, I think both of the options that they're offering us is very similar, but also have very unique characteristics that could sway you between one over the other. For me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna say that the 7 Pro is always gonna be my favorite, mostly because, as you saw, the 855 with 12 gigs of RAM is still rocking it, and I'm running a beta version of Android 10. I'm not even running the full version, and it's performing great. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support, and let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Are you thinking about the 7T Pro or the 7T? Or even considering getting that, the 7 Pro, which I think is still a great performer.